Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of BizMeds. We are your hosts coming to you with your minimum effective dose for your business. My name is Saad.
And my name is Darris. And if you don't know, we help businesses scale. For example, one of the clients I worked with, or one of the organizations I've been involved with, scaled from 60 to $90 million.
And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So let's just hop right into it. Get an understanding of this playbook of
Yes.
how to get your business from 0 to 60 to $90 million.
Well, I mean, yeah. So it's the exact playbook we
Mhm.
used to go to scale from 60 to 90 million in 18 months. And that's really what we want to talk about today. So it's, we haven't really spent a lot of time talking about it.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to now, let's talk about the playbook that we
Yeah.
used in that I was, developed and was able to kind of leverage now
Mhm.
going forward.
I got to be honest, like, you and I have been working together for a long time, and I know we've seen it true happen through and throughout with so many different clients. The playbook, as you're saying, like is very, very, repeatable and like cross company applicable, cross business applicable. Um, I
Yeah.
just haven't really had a breakdown, so I think this is a good way for me to actually get it too.
Again, so this was a really good, because obviously working with clients and leveraging neuroscience and things like that, um, like that's a really important skill to develop, and that condenses the time frames. This is the more tactical, how do I? Oh,
Hmm.
and thinking about it from a framework. And okay, because like what we tried to do was boil this down into a really simple framework that you can attack,
Right.
use it over and over and over, the specific and give examples of that. And then the specifics for you and in your business will obviously be very dependent on your business,
Hmm.
because as we go through some of the things, the context, the framework is more important. The idea that you get out of it to use is actually more important than the specific. It'll probably the when we talk about the example, that will probably help just spur your mind and your imagination and your being able to say, oh, okay, like
Critical thinking a
critical
bit.
thinking,
Yeah.
and being able to help kind of jumpstart your thoughts around, oh, this could be the thing that I need to go and do. So that's really why we developed the playbook and this
Mhm.
part of the process that we use.
Yeah. Yeah, you are right. A lot of times people, when they're doing something, they just continue doing it and never question it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is good to have some type of framework or a template or something to look to and be like, oh, actually, like, I've never really thought about this one specific area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, like this framework, like at the time when I was executing it, didn't really understand, like it's been a refinement and continual refinement of that. And
Mhm.
so this is where it is easy to get lost in the specifics of what you're doing, and you think, oh, that one thing was really important. But it's when you're able to go back and say, oh, this is actually the steps I've been repeating without really realizing. So when you hear a lot of ultra successful entrepreneurs talk about their frameworks, it's usually like they didn't usually know that they were executing that framework
Yeah.
at the time. They're like, oh, I need to do this, this, and this, and they go back and like, oh, like what is the common process or steps that I took to do that? Oh, wow, that's interesting that when I was really successful, I did these key things,
Hmm.
and that's repeatable, and that has been repeatable. They'll test it like, oh, okay, cool. Like that now makes more sense. That's the iteration, that's the learning part of it. But when you're there executing, all is
Gotta
kind
get
of,
it done.
well, yes, but you're also building on your previous experience, and you're kind of testing, measuring a bit,
Yeah.
and refining that model without even really realizing. You've had success, so you kind of model it a bit, and then when you're after that, you can go back. You have the luxury of going back and looking at it and saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
all right, that makes more sense. Like this is a much more repeatable framework,"
Hmm.
and you can refine it even more to say, "Okay, cool. I got this amount of results. I think next time, if I do this, I can be that much more effective, or test it and see, oh, did that work or not?
Yeah.
And we also have the benefit of now working with clients that also get the benefit of that. And so we can see real time those refinements of the process and the model.
Mm-hmm.
So this is literally the playbook I use to scale from 60 to 90 million, 18 months.
All right. Well, let's hop into it.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of just take this like a natural progression of what it is, but I'm kind of bucketing it into major themes. And the first theme is really around, you're doing a lot of stupid work.
Oh, right
That's right into it. You're doing a lot of stupid work and you don't even realize that you are.
Right.
And this is true in every organization. Okay. But I'll give you some specifics of things that we work through, or that I was able to identify and address really fast, and why it's important to do that first and foremost, and why we start here again is really important. So talk through a couple examples. So this was a major contract, obviously. So we were essentially baselining at 60 million a year. Like that was kind of just base business. And when I came in and started looking at everything, it was so we had a weekly report that was due, because obviously we were a major contract to an even larger organization. So every week we were required to submit a weekly report, right? Now, I looked at that, and it was taking 3 to 4 people 3 full days a week to get everything into this report every week. And I looked at that, I said, that is maddening. So we're taking, and not just, hey, I have like 3 or 4 admin people. This was manager level, like all of myself and 2 or 3 of my top managers were literally 3 days a week trying to get this thing done. So if you think about that, that's 24 elite. Well, actually, it's more like 40 to 50 hours worth of very valuable time that is literally putting together admin work and a lot of stuff.
Right.
So that was a lot of energy for what felt to me specifically was not a lot of value. So what I did was actually we scheduled a meeting with the organization, with the company, and said, okay, like help me understand what it is you're doing with this. And when we got down to it, they're like, oh, we like data, we like information. So it's like, all right, so you're collecting all this data, but you're not doing anything with it.
Yeah.
Well, we like to see this, and I was able to look at and show them how the data that they were, quote unquote, data that they were bringing in was actually broken every time. And there would be no way you could actually tie any of that data together. So it would actually, there was no value out of collecting that. And that's just an example of where we were able to get the end result of that discussion and working together was, hey, like getting both parties to understand like where the true value is. We got it down to about an hour and a half a week. And guess what? It didn't take one of myself or one of my senior team members to do it. Actually could be filled in, and we could just validate it and make sure that everything was good before we sent it off weekly. Yeah. So that's a tremendous amount of very high value time savings, because if you look at the quality of the time of myself and my my general managers that were doing that, that is some serious horsepower every week that's being. So you're doing a lot of stupid work that you don't even realize you're doing. Yeah. Or maybe you realize you're doing, but you don't have a way of trying to get out of it.
Yeah. That reminded me of a similar story where, I was working on a project for a client where I was like helping them identify opportunities from like 4 different sources. And I'm like, hey, we're not making decisions off of this data. One of the systems had nothing but static information. So meaning like it wouldn't change. There was nothing on there that would ever change. Yeah. And they would spend a week incorporating that into the entire like analysis. And same as you. It was like, why is this there? And it was like 20 columns worth of static information. Yeah. Like, what are we looking at?
Because someone thought it was important.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, well, does this ever change? No. Hypothetically, in a blue moon, something happens. Does this change? No. what do we need this for? What are we trying to
So
accomplish?
that again reinforces the idea that you have to start questioning why it is that you're doing what you do.
Yeah.
I'll give one more final example on this one was we were paying someone actually. I looked back and I was like, no, it was 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
So someone was being paid between 8 and 12 hours a day, a
Yeah.
night to sit. And so this is one of our primary revenue generating people. So
Mhm.
these are frontline people that they actually are involved in generating revenue.
Yeah.
Was sitting in an office, not out generating revenue. They were sitting and filling an Excel spreadsheet all night
Yeah.
into a report. And when I asked who looked at the report, I had the deer in the headlight look of,
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, okay. So we're like,
Yeah.
it brings up a lot of things like, okay, so like, do our people even question why we do anything?
Yeah.
Or they just, okay, you told me to do this. I think it's valuable because you asked me to do this.
Yeah.
And there's no critical thought involved in that. To your point, like why are we bringing all
Yeah.
this other data on all the time if it never changes? So similar work is we're paying someone full time that should be out generating revenue. So you're already now not generating as much revenue as you can because you've
Mhm.
taken one of your frontline workers out to sit them in an office to do low value work. At one point, someone thought it really was important and need to be done for what they thought was compliance reasons.
Mhm.
And so here's a way you can do it. And we talked about this before is you can just do a little test. If I
Mhm.
stop doing this and nobody notices,
Mhm.
there's a good chance, like do your due diligence. Like I went and I talked to everyone
Mhm.
that could possibly be related to this Excel spreadsheet report.
Mhm.
And no one could give me an answer as to who actually last time they even looked at it, knew it existed, anything. Right. And by the way, like the information that was being important, we had all of the paper backups for everything. So like, why are we duplicating work? Like no one's using this for any type of decision. So why are we doing it? So do your due diligence first
Yeah.
and then pause it. And then we found that we were paying this person. So guess what? You are now back on the road earning revenue
Mhm.
for the company, right? And paying
Yeah.
for your position, not, you know, doing admin work when you should be out earning revenue. And to
Exactly.
no fault of their own, because they were just requested to do something and that's what they were able to do. So that's what I
Yeah.
do. So you really have to spend your time on the front end freeing up resources. Stop doing stupid work that you don't know you're doing because somewhere along the way you thought it was important. And it's the same thing with other clients. It's a very common theme that we see, but it's why the playbook starts with free up resources first. Free up your time, free up your energy, free cash flow, like wherever it is, because a lot of those things are costing money that could be better reallocated.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So then let's move on to the next part. So this is I label or call this kind of next step in the playbook as find the constraint. And there's a little bit of a double-edged sword in that one. But I'll maybe talk about the first thing why we start with free up your resources is before we start to go find the constraint is let's get the energy back to be able to actually focus on what we can do or what is actually causing versus we're still bombarded with all of the energy of just trying to make things go along.
Yeah.
So the the thought here or the theme is you have to subtract before you can add.
Right.
So a lot of we get caught up is we like to add more. Oh, we need to do this and we need to do this and we need to do this. And we don't stop to say, okay, what do we need to stop doing first before we add anything? It's
Mhm.
now we have to identify what the true constraint is.
Right.
So where is the real bottleneck happening? Where's the real issue happening? Is it, do we not have enough leads coming in the door? Is it we're actually tapped out from a delivery standpoint? We actually can't manufacture this amount or we can't meet this amount of demand. Like what's happening? Or we can't bill fast enough or we can't collect cash. Like what is the actual constraint? And then you want to take all the resources you just freed up and now solve that constraint,
Yeah.
right? So I'll give you an example so with that, all of that work we were doing, the scheduling of people and equipment was all manual in spreadsheets,
Mhm.
right? This, again, I look at it in terms of a maturity phase of I, a lot of times we inherit things because we're doing the best we can with the resources and everything we have at the time,
Mhm.
right? I don't ever look at it and be like, oh, someone's maliciously trying to screw the business or make it harder. It's no, generally people want to do great work and they try to do the best they can given their skill sets. So we inherited this massive, you know, Excel spreadsheet that was basically managing all of our equipment, all of our people, but like with really complex solutions of, because we're dealing with hours of service, we have compliance, we have split shifts, we have equipment coming in and out of service. So what's available? We have different types of equipment. We have equipment that only certain types of people have the ability to operate. So it's not, and we're working night shift and day shift. So it's very complex and we're trying to manually assign things in Excel and do this stuff. So we don't know what we don't know. All we know is we feel like we're tapped out all the time. We feel like we need to hire a ton more people because we don't ever have enough people to go through.
Right.
So through the exercise of, okay, really identifying what the constraint is, well, that in and of itself is like, well, if we're not really comfortable with knowing, okay, just how how efficient we are and optimized we are for scheduling and making sure that all these things are, everything else is based on that.
Right.
So what we did was we went out into the marketplace and guess what? There's actually software out there that is basically built to solve that problem. So that's what we did. We went and we invested in that software solution. And then we were able to address and schedule much more efficiently, right? So we were able to put those rules in and optimize much more efficiently. And so the amount of effort, so instead of having two people, on back-to-back 12-hour shifts, basically taking 24 hours every day to develop a schedule for the next day and make sure it was ready to go out first thing in the morning and delivered for the first shift going out. It was incredibly time consuming and exhausting for all the people involved. So, because you have your scheduling team and then you have your dispatch team.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make all of the kind of on the fly changes. And now we can actually reduce the amount of time it takes to get that. We can address any issues. We have way more time to address any issues, make any changes. Because obviously, people get sick or something happens and you have to be able to work on the fly so much easier because now you have that time and effort. And guess what? You have the benefit of looking at, how optimized am I from an equipment usage standpoint? And am I staffed adequately? Now you're looking at actual numbers and saying, well, guess what? Through that, we learned that we weren't scheduled very efficiently at all.
Yeah.
And so as a result, we were dramatically underutilizing our equipment and our people so that we could never actually meet maximum potential billing.
Yeah.
And so with those is where we started to really start to ramp up and scale between 60 million and 90 million was through that process.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a story that kind of aligns with that as well. I was working with a client and, one of the managing partners always thought that they had to spend a week going through everyone's timesheets, making sure they were submitted properly. Because when they build a client, it has to sound or look appropriate enough for the client to go through. Now, if you have a working statement or a work contract agreement, your client is not going to spend hours looking through it themselves. They're going to be like, if you're delivering on this, it's approved, right?
Yeah.
This guy thought the business would collapse if he didn't do that 40 hours worth of constantly double checking. And his partner suggested hey, how about we just stop doing it for 3 months and see how that goes? And, stopped doing it for 3 months, and there was no performance or lack of trust from the clients when you were billing. So there's nothing that changed. Status quo, everything stayed the same. And then after 3 months go by, this guy is like, I gotta start doing it again. I really do. And therein you could tell that it was just ingrained in his nature to feel like that's an easy thing for me to do. And in his mind, he believed that it was adding value, when in reality, it was just wasting time and not being able to allocate his time more effectively to find more work or find more revenue for the business or just, optimize. So exactly how you're saying is You improve your scheduling, you improve your allocation. So
Yeah, it's really that really goes back again to that first point where you start is
yeah,
identifying the stupid work and
yeah,
how much value is it. And so that I'm assuming that managing partner is worth a lot more out generating revenue
100%.
than
Yeah,
sitting for, you said 40 hours a week,
yeah,
or a week worth of time every
40
month,
hours a month. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's literally just reviewing, like that's admin work. So
absolutely. Yeah,
completely disproportionate loss of value
yeah,
there. And that's really the thing. So find the constraint
hmm,
and solve for that. So was that really a constraint? Was it really? No. So
yeah,
this goes to the idea that when you're trying to find the constraint, when you're trying to find the issue, is you have to really take your time to find out what the true problem is.
hmm,
Because if you're solving the wrong problem, even if you solve it the right way, it's
yeah,
still the wrong problem, and you're not going to get value out of it.
hmm,
So there's the two part to find the constraint is what is it really the problem? Is it, like what's really broken or what's really capping the growth?
hmm,
And that's, is it your offer? Is it your avatar? Is it your somewhere in your marketing funnel? Is it somewhere in your sales funnel? Is it somewhere in your delivery? Is it somewhere in your billing and your finance? Like what part is actually causing the bottleneck and the issue from growth happening?
hmm,
And being able to strip all of that noise. But you really don't have the opportunity to do that unless you stop doing a lot of stupid work.
hmm,
And when you are, maybe you're not a $60 million a year company, maybe you're $1 million a year company, right? I'm going to guarantee you're doing a lot of stupid work outside, or you're doing a lot of stupid distracted work and scrolling and doing things that aren't high value, and not doing the more valuable task of stopping that
hmm,
and focusing on where your true constraint is, and then putting your resource that you've just reclaimed into solving that,
hmm,
right? And then you can iterate faster and say, okay, well, now I'm going to do the next thing. What's the next constraint? And you just ruthlessly go after that. Then that really brings us, because that now leads you in to kind of it's more a foundational piece, but it's a really important part of the process, especially as you start to scale more and
hmm,
your revenue goes higher. Like when you're talking like, oh, you're over 1 million, you're now, approaching 10, 20, 30 million. And definitely as you're growing, like every step along the way, you should be looking at having data driven decisions.
yeah,
And I say that because if you're not making decisions based off data, at the very best,
hmm,
you can hope for is you're guessing.
hmm,
You're relying on your intuition or have a hunch. And really great companies don't operate off a hunch. They look at the data.
yeah,
And sometimes, and even the data, if you have a strong enough set of data, help you understand some of what your constraints are. And
absolutely.
you're able to look at what it is. So,
Yeah,
but when you're a smaller company, it's a little bit harder because maybe you don't have as robust data. You don't have
hmm,
a really like complex data solution. You're not able to
yeah,
go and like, oh, pull me the report from this. It's literally someone maybe with a spreadsheet, or you have your CRM
hmm,
that you're using to kind of keep track of things, or you have to go back into your payment processor and you have to do a little bit of manual
yeah,
calculations. But
yeah,
at every point, you have to start bringing that on and then shoring up that part. So to
hmm,
give you a really good indication, because what we were able to do was, once you have data based on the constraint by solving with the software and things like that, and knowing that we were underutilized from equipment, we realized, I was like, oh,
hmm,
I can actually start doing the math on, if I hire all these people, I now have all this additional burden I have to carry,
hmm,
right? But I really only need to optimize for one additional
hmm,
day.
yeah,
What's the math on what if I offer overtime to these people to stay and then take care of their transportation back?
hmm,
What is that? Like, what's the
equate to,
numbers? What is
yeah,
that? Like, what is my cost to value ratio there? So what's it going to cost me versus the return that I get?
yeah,
And oh my God, that blew the doors wide open.
yeah,
So not only that, so I didn't have to then carry a bunch of people for what could have been a short period of time and ask them to take, step away from jobs maybe they already had to come work for something I really couldn't guarantee for an extended period of time, just
Yeah.
because it's a contract with a finite amount of time. I
Yeah.
could actually just offer my current employees and say, here's what I'm offering. Who's willing to take me up on that? Is that worthwhile for you? This is what I'm going to do. And I never had a week where I wasn't able to meet that.
Yeah.
Right. Or have another mechanism to meet that. So then all of a sudden, every week, suddenly I am maximizing to the absolute most maximum billing opportunity I can. So I'm driving the maximum amount of revenue, and I can say, okay, where is it now that from a cost perspective that I need to take, because I've taken care of that. I know I've completely offset that additional revenue with a very small incremental cost increase. Where are the other areas where I can go? And then when you're doing that, guess what? You just ruthlessly repeat that cycle. Okay, where am I doing stupid work?
Exactly.
Where are we doing stupid work? Okay, cool. Reclaim as much that we can. What's the next constraint? Is that the actual constraint? And what's the best way to solve that?
Yeah.
And then you ruthlessly attack that.
Yeah.
Get the data, look at it again. And maybe that's part of the process, as you realize my constraint is I don't have good data. Okay, so what can you do
Yeah.
to get some good data to help you make better decisions?
Exactly. I want to quickly add in like a little point about the data piece, because I love data. I know you love data, but sometimes
love
when we
data.
sometimes when you talk to clients, they think when we're talking data, we're talking very granular level stuff.
Yeah.
No, you need to look as a business owner. You need to look at it from 10,000 foot view. Like hypothetically, every May your sales go down for the last 5 years. What do you think is going to happen the next May? Right? Statistically, your history shows that it's going to dip. So what can you do to battle that, right?
Or what's
Like,
causing that?
what's
Like
causing
what's
that? Yeah.
causing that? So there's data, but again, it's how you're using the data
Yeah.
to inform you and help you understand what's actually happening, or where there's a break, or what's causing, or ask the question. Oh, we need to go find out why that's happening,
Yeah.
and then make a decision based on that. Not as you pointed out. Oh, it's going to dip. Okay, what are we gonna do? We're gonna put a sale on. But what if it's not that? Maybe there's
Yeah.
something external in the
Leading to it,
marketplace that, oh, if we actually did this a month in advance, we could
Improve.
improve dramatically because we're way
Yeah.
ahead of it and not at the tail end. But we don't know because we're not solving the constraint the right way,
Yeah. Exactly.
which again just reinforces the playbook. One is you have to identify the stupid work you're doing, right? You have to you ruthlessly cut all that stuff out and be okay. And sometimes that's your time as an entrepreneur. You're spending a lot of time doing stupid stuff,
Yeah.
right? And depending on where you are in your revenue, like that's that.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you have to
yeah.
do what you need to do because you're there and you don't have as many people. I'm just saying, like from going to 60 to 90 million, the process is exactly the same, but the time that you may have available to do that, or the time you can claw back, might not be the same. But the principle is exactly the same, and you can start to build on that, and you get longer term exponential growth. So that starts to compound over time because you're making those improvements. You're attacking it with that continual playbook.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's it. So yeah, we want to identify where you're doing stupid work, find the constraint, find the right problem, solve it the right way. Then you want to make sure you have data to help you make great decisions. And then, of course, you want to ruthlessly repeat that cycle over and over and over. Because remember, you have to subtract before you can add. Don't try to add things before you take away, because you're just going to contribute to overwhelm and burnout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good
Perfect
place
way,
perfect place to stop. So hopefully that gave you some insight how scaled from 60 to 90 million in 18 months, and the exact playbook I use. And there it is. We're giving it away to you guys for free. But if you want help with that, obviously just leave us a comment, say help. Very simple.
Yeah.
And we'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
So if you just joined us, thank you so much. We hope you learned something. We hope you found it valuable. If you've been with us the whole way, again, the same. We wish that the same. If you did find something valuable and helpful, or you know someone that might, please just share it with them. We don't get paid, nor do we ask anyone to pay us for us. We want to invest in you as business owners. So we're here. To our mom, love you. Thank you so much. Saad's mom, love you. Thank you so much for always supporting us and continually being there for us. free masterclass and link below. We got some upcoming changes on that. Stay tuned. But just remember, you're only one day away from the life you've always dreamed about. We're going to see you in the next episode.